Okay, everyone, I am Shani Jones, and this is KNKY, which stands for Know the New Kinky You. We are about to get started with our IG Live post at 10 o'clock. So this is the precursor, and we're getting warmed up. So hopefully you enjoyed tonight's topic. We're about to get started. Hello everyone, my name is Shani Jones and this is KNKY, which stands for Know the New Kinky You. I am your resident certified sex coach and we are here to talk about all things sex. So first, let me just thank everybody who is already a follower and a subscriber. We're doing really well on YouTube, so if you haven't yet subscribed, please feel free to. If you don't get a chance to watch the whole live, because I know they can be sometimes long, feel free to go back on YouTube and watch the repost. So tonight we are talking about how insecurity can kill sex and relationships. I usually like to highlight the positive things about what we can do to maintain a healthy relationship and what we can do to help build ourselves to be stronger couples and create something of beauty. There are going to be those times where we can create something that is more than ourselves, and we're creating something that is a reflection of the best things in each other, and how we can learn how to stimulate our bodies so that what we feel is an expression of ecstasy and something that we look forward to sharing with each other. But there are some times when in a relationship there are those things that can kill all of that, can kill the intimacy and the wantingness to even be in a relationship with somebody. Now, when we're talking about insecurities, which is tonight's topic, not everything is intended to just be a downer. We all have some level of insecurities. Even the most popular celebrity has something about themselves that they perhaps aren't as secure about. But it's when we allow those things to affect us and affect our relationships that it causes problems that are unnecessary to the goals that we're actually trying to achieve. Now, before we've talked about body image issues, for men and for women, but sometimes when we look in the mirror and we have a reflection of us that isn't what we want to see, we can start to believe that our partner also sees those things that are in our heads, and a lot of times that's just not the case. But if you have a partner that starts to speak negatively about your physical attributes, then you should probably question the value that they see in you as a person. And if you realize that they don't see any value in you, then you need to question why it is that you want to be in that relationship. Sometimes we can feel unworthy of love. Like if you've had a string of unsuccessful relationships, you start to question why. What is it about you that is wrong? What is wrong with you? Now, this isn't necessarily a dumb question, but you need to reframe it into something else. What is it about the energy that you're putting out that is attracting these types of people to you that you end up dating? You should start thinking about common characteristics. What were things that typically went wrong in your relationship, and start to think about what you can do as a person to change it so that you can start projecting a different kind of energy as a part of the laws of attraction that say, I want to start working on things to establish relationships in my favor that are suitable for me and the journey that I want to be on. Ask yourself what happens when those insecurities aren't even supported by your partner. Now, most insecurities are irrational. It's based on feelings that are in your head. So when you're in a relationship and you don't feel loved, when your partner professes love to you, you have to ask yourself why you don't believe them. Here we could possibly be talking about love languages. We've talked about love languages in the past. So for example, if you are a person who perhaps doesn't feel attractive enough and you are a person that wants to have those words of affirmation, if you don't hear them, you want to be told that you're attractive. You want to be told that you're sexy and that your partner wants to have sex with you. If you're not getting that, perhaps your partner isn't feeding into the love language that will help to reaffirm what it is that you want to hear. Or perhaps we're talking about physical touch, right? So especially against keeping with the theme of the body image issues, when you're talking about physical touch, if you have insecurities about any part of your body, especially women, our stomachs and our butts are things that we are just highly insecure about at times. Now, if you have apprehension about your partner even touching you in those places, you're not going to feel comfortable when they try to, because you're not comfortable with yourself. So insecurities are often projected. So just like I said, that if you're not comfortable with yourself, so you're going to push your partner away, insecurity is often projected. Now, you may find that you can be accused of actions or behaviors that are completely unfounded. And no one likes to be falsely accused. And, you know, even though it's not a perfect system, in the justice system, there is a concept of being innocent until proven guilty. And in a lot of ways, that just doesn't happen when you're in a relationship. When people convince themselves that there's a truth, oftentimes there's not a lot we can do to unconvince them. So that, of course, is unless they want to fix it, which means addressing it, but we'll talk about that a little later. Now, the classic song that I think about when we're having this particular conversation is Jennifer Hudson's song Spotlight. What she says is, I don't like living under your spotlight. So here's the first verse. Not all of it, because she has little runs. Are you a man who loves and cherishes and cares for me? Are you a guard in a prison, maximum security? Do we stay home all the time because you want me to yourself, or am I locked away out of fear that I'd find someone else? Now, the only way relationships work is if they work for both people. And I think a lot of times we can relate to certain songs that we hear, the lyrics in certain songs, because it helps to validate our feelings. It helps to show that we aren't crazy and we're not the only person going through this particular situation. But what it doesn't do is change the situation that you're in. Now, from one perspective, using this specific song as the example, what I hear is the insecurity that he may not feel worthy of her, or perhaps he doesn't feel that she loves him in the way that she claims that she does. And this could be driven by multiple different things. So, you know, perhaps there has been a violation in their relationship in the past where he's cheated on her. And this is not just the he, she. I'm using the song as an example. There's also perhaps an imbalance in the relationship where she may be the breadwinner, and that may cause feelings of inadequacy. And this is not applicable to everybody, but there are those in relationships that feel this way. Now, most people that have these feelings don't even recognize them as insecurities. They convince themselves that their beliefs are accurate reflections of the person that they are projecting those feelings onto. So it becomes less about them and the root cause of their feelings than it does about the relationship and the person that they're in the relationship with. Now, what happens when insecurities constantly surface? A constant reassurance is a band-aid. People need reassurances. I'm not saying that they don't, but the need for constant reassurance is only a band-aid to what the real issue is. So it will start to affect you as a person, and it will start to affect you as a couple. And a lot of times, especially in longer term relationships, we've made certain investments and find it difficult to let them go. So you'll find yourself staying longer than you possibly should have, just because you don't want to give up on it. You start to remember when you fell in love and what it felt like when you first fell in love with them. And you start to remember how exciting the sex was, and perhaps how kinky the sex was, and all of the things that you used to do. But those insecurities start to stack and create stress in your relationship that shouldn't be there. Because again, these insecurities are coming from within, and within your imagination and within your head. Most of the time. That is a caveat. Most of the time. Now, what you'll find is that as the stress builds, especially for the person that's receiving the bulk of the negative energy, that arguments start to persist, and that the arguments actually become a lot more trivial. Being intimate can become part of a routine, but it's not something you look forward to like you did early on and in the beginning. It can create a divide that at times will feel insurmountable. And we've talked about a few ways insecurities surface and how we can mitigate that negative impact. So here are a few signs of insecurities in your relationship. So if there's a constant fear of losing your partner, you have to ask yourself why you feel that way. You chose each other for a reason, and unless something's changed in that dynamic, you have to believe that and understand that your fear isn't warranted. If there is a consuming jealousy, and one person is jealous of any relationship that you have, if spending time with someone other than the person that you're in a relationship with causes a problem, then you have to ask yourself why. You chose each other for a reason, so unless something has changed, the jealousy isn't warranted. Amongst the people I talk to, and this is not off topic but related, and I want you to give me your opinions on it. There is mixed feelings about being friends with people of the opposite sex. And in some instances, people believe that if you're friends with someone of the opposite sex, at some point in knowing them, you fucked them. Now, I think most of us know that that is highly unlikely and most of the time not true, but it could be. I believe that not all relationships are intended to work out and be long-term marriages and successful whatever. But just because you didn't work out as a couple doesn't mean that you can't actually build a genuine friendship. It does mean, though, that you have to have a level of respect in your relationship that permeates throughout any new relationship you have. So if you're friends with somebody that you used to date, then you have to know certain rules. Now, again, I tend to be a very honest person, and you have to, again, know who you're dealing with to understand whether or not they can even understand the concept of being friends with somebody that you slept with. So the amount of information that you share with them has to have a really, really good balance. But in any case, there is a level of respect that has to be maintained in order for you to have any successful relationship outside of the one that you're in. regardless of, the state of sexual interactions and encounters. Today, another issue or another example of having some insecurities in a relationship is the demand for access to cell phone passwords and email passwords and anything else in your life that requires a password. So there are some people who don't mind sharing that information with their partner. They're like an open book. Here's my password. My daughter knows my password. She'll tell you if you ask her, but don't ask her. There's certain information. I don't care. I have nothing to hide. But if someone demands a password from you, like I need to know, I have to know, and they make it a condition of your relationship, that is something that you really need to look into and question and ask yourself, why does this person feel the need to have this information? A lot of times people feel like there's information that's being withheld, or they have a potential secret that I need to know and be able to access at all times. Why? I, again, am a firm believer that all things that happen in the dark come out to light. So if somebody is doing something, you don't have to chase it down. You don't have to be I Spy. You will find out because they will fuck up. So don't feel the need that you have to go through all of their stuff. Have a little bit more trust in yourself that if somebody is doing something as a violation of you and your relationship, you will find out. Also, a lot of people will constantly check your social media. So for instance, you guys know I do this. You're here, and thank you for being here. I talk about sex. Now, these conversations when I talk about sex, they're not necessarily intimate portrayals of me and my life, but they are common things that happen to most of us that I think are important for us to discuss. So if somebody likes a post or comments on a post, and if you guys are checking out my post, I got a lot of naked women or sexually graphic positions and things like that. Just because someone likes a post, in fact, I will be honest, I really like the ones where someone tags someone that they're in a relationship in, because you're not shying away from the content. What you're doing is sharing in the content so that hey, I'm interested in this, or hey, this is an interesting topic. It might have some impact on us. So don't always go in with a negative thought about what somebody is doing on social media. A lot of people have pictures and posts, and it's not necessarily a full indication of who they are and what they're doing on social media. It is a glimpse and a snapshot. And for a lot of us, it's not even a 100% accurate reflection of who it is and what we're doing. But again, we have to have a level of respect, especially when we're in a relationship. Don't go commenting on a post talking about, I like them big titties and I want to suck this and do this and have it all out in the open. Please don't do that. Have respect for your relationship. Also, if you're in any of the private groups that are on social media, please understand that private groups are not private. There are people that can be in these groups that you don't know are in these groups, and they can know who you know on these groups and a whole bunch of other stuff. So don't do anything on social media that you don't want to be revealed in your real life. So just keep that in mind. Now, another issue is when you have a level of paranoia or disbelief about where your partner is or who they are with. This is not only a potential sign of a lack of security, a sign of insecurity, but it's also a sign of a lack of trust. If your partner says, this is where I am and this is who I like to be with, then why is it that you don't believe them? So you have to ask yourself, why? Do you have a legitimate reason to be distrustful? If your partner has to reassure you constantly, then that can also be a problem. What we have talked about, we talked about a little bit before when we're talking about reassurances. Most of us have some level of insecurity. We do. And to have somebody validate us is not something that is a big deal, unless it becomes a requirement for a successful relationship. If in order to feel appreciated, to have somebody feel that love, if the requirement is to constantly reassure them, yes baby, you're beautiful, yes baby, I love you, you're the only person I want to be, no, I'm not cheating on you, no, I'm not doing, that is a drain at that point on a person. And you don't want to put your partner in that particular position, to have that level of reassurance. It doesn't help the functionality of your relationship, and in fact, that level of reassurance is dysfunctional. Another sign of insecurity is this inability to be alone. So I go back to the Jennifer Hudson reference where she states she feels like she's living under a spotlight. If the only way for you to trust the person that you're with is where they say they are, is based on them constantly being with you, that is a problem. It's a problem, and you really have to ask yourself why that's the case. The last thing that we'll talk about as a sign of insecurity is avoiding confrontation. Now, this is not me. I don't have a problem bringing up when something bothers me or if I'm not happy about something. But if you do avoid those conversations for fear that, they might leave you and you don't want to be alone, then this is when you're definitely insecure. This is not one that I'm going to you're insecure. Now, with the exception of the last one, I did not say definitely insecure for any of them. It was, you may likely be insecure. It's possible that you're insecure, but I would still go back and say, why do you have these feelings? Are they justified? Do you have a legitimate reason to feel the way you feel? Perhaps you did have a partner that cheated on you or violated your relationship in some kind of way. You may have a partner that you've caught in a lie and you have trouble trusting. But then again, you have to ask yourself, why are you in this situation if this is how you feel? Relationships are about both partners feeling love and respect and security. And just like we talked about signs of unhealthy relationships, there are definite signs for healthy relationships, and we'll talk about those in future videos. But you have to be able to identify negative and destructive behaviors, because insecurity can lead to both negative and destructive behavior. And once you've reached a certain point, there's nothing that you're going to be able to do to change it, because you've now destroyed the foundation of what it is that you had. So the key is to recognize these insecurities early and be willing to work on them. First key, just like being an alcoholic, you have to admit to the problem. If you never admit to the problem, then you're never going to be in a position to change it. That applies to anything in life that we want to change. If you're overweight and you want to lose weight, admit that you're overweight and you want to lose weight. Do something about it. Don't let it be an insecurity. Make it something that you are proactively doing and changing about your life. If you want to live a healthier lifestyle, go and change your diet, exercise. If you want to be more productive in your career, go take a class, go read a book, go do something to make you a better person. And that is all what this is. Recognizing that there are things that are unhealthy for you in your life that you want to change, and you be willing to do something about it. There are things that we can do to mitigate these, especially if we do them early, and especially if we do them with the support of a partner. So, take stock in your value. You are a person that is of value. Most of the time we feel insecure because we feel that there is something lacking within us. And when you're in a healthy relationship, you'll know the difference. And you'll know that those differences are intended to complement each other. They're not necessarily reasons to point out what's wrong with you. But if you don't, again, see it in yourself, then you're not going to know how to use those differences to support and enhance your relationship. Not everybody is going to bring the same things to the table, but it doesn't diminish your contributions or who you are as a person. But if you don't recognize your value, you'll have a hard time believing that somebody else does. Even if they show you, even if they tell you, you're going to have a hard time believing it if you don't. You have to build your self-esteem. Do not rely on your partner to approve you, to make you feel like a better person. Confidence is one of the most attractive things that a person can have. And there are going to be those instances where you're like, well, how did he get her, or how did she get him? Because she had the confidence enough to go and do it. When you lack that self-confidence, people smell it on you. And this is most of the time when people take advantage of you. So when you lack that confidence, it's very difficult to be a self-promoter of greatness. You also have to keep your independence. Sometimes in a relationship, especially early on, we tend to be immersed in each other. You know, we stop hanging out with our friends as much, and we stop doing some of the things that single people do. Now, don't get me wrong and get me in trouble with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. I'm not saying to go out and do what you did as a single person. What I'm saying is make time for yourself and make time for yourself as a couple. Okay? Go out and have that level of independence where you're not completely reliant on the other person as your social network. And lastly, you have to trust yourself. You have to listen to that inner voice, but ignore the inner voice that is telling you something isn't right. If you know that something isn't right, don't ignore it. You have to recognize it. So again, if you're that person that's on the other side of the insecurities in the relationship and you're taking the brunt of it and you know it's not working and you know it's not right, don't ignore it. You can address it. You can try to work on it. But if you find that those efforts are not being accepted, if those efforts aren't being met with the same veracity that you are giving it, you need to let it go. Have enough courage to change a bad situation because you will be okay. You'll be okay. So just like you had a relationship before, if that relationship ended, it was fucked up. It was tough. It was tough. But you got over it and you were able to move on, and hopefully you moved on to something bigger and better. And if you haven't moved on, think about the things that we've talked about tonight. Think about what it is that could be holding you back from something that is so vital to us as people to be able to have healthy, confident, secure, respected relationships. So, no one's perfect. We are all works in progress. The ideal, though, is to be actively working on us, to be actively aware and mindful of who we are and who we can be as long as we invest in ourselves and become better people, better partners, a better community. So, I hope you found this information helpful. I will continue these discussions, and again, I am recording this, so this is why you see this. I'm recording this, so IG Live, thank you guys, everybody who joined, waved, I appreciate you. Instagram, YouTube, please feel free to go back, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please do. I appreciate you and all that you do. My name is Shani Jones. This is KNKY, which stands for Know the New Kinky You, and I will see you again soon.